Can I just say one thing to you guys? If a trade package centered around Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to bring in the Memphis Grizzlies 3 first-round picks, then there is no way that Giannis is getting traded to the Warriors, to anybody else for only 4 first-round picks. I think what's going to end up happening is that the Milwaukee Bucks are going to hold Giannis until the summer just because there aren't good enough packages out there right now. I don't think you could get there unless there's a third team involved, at least a third, maybe fourth team involved when it comes to the assets that Giannis is going to warrant, right? That I tried to tell you guys, but that Warriors Jimmy Butler and Kuminga plus 4 first makes absolutely no sense, right? You take on $60 million that's not even on the court for you. You take in a guy in Kuminga who's been getting DMP since December, and then you take in 4 first-round picks that aren't going to have any value for 2 years because Steph Curry is going to keep that team relevant. Just makes no sense. That can't be the package that the Milwaukee Bucks get back for a top 20 player of all time in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Let's get real. If I hope Giannis gets traded before the deadline so he has an opportunity to compete come playoff time. And I hope it's to a team that is competitive. I hope the Timberwolves can make it work. I think that would be amazing. I hope the Heat, shoot, who knows, right? The Atlanta Hawks, maybe, I don't know. But I hope a team can trade for him to give him the opportunity to compete in the playoffs this season. I do hope that. And I hope he comes back from his calf injury able to play. But the reality is I'm just not seeing it right now. I'm not seeing a package that's good enough if Jaren Jackson Jr. is warranting 3 first-round picks, right? I know it wasn't just him straight up, but still, right? He is the reason. He was the catalyst for that. Now, with that being said, just to speak on this Utah um, Memphis trade really quick, I think what ended up happening is that the Utah Jazz got a guy in they got a guy in Keontae George, excuse me, who is just better sooner than what they thought, right? And I think with him being that good, with them having Lauri Markkanen, with Walker Kessler coming back next season, they're realizing that they are in a prime position to compete now as opposed to later. And that's just the truth of it. I don't think they expected Keontae George to be this good this soon, but he is. And now that he is, they're not looking to just continue to collect assets and to get guys in the draft. Obviously this draft aside, right? But I'm talking about future years, right? Like they think they're going to get a legitimate player in this upcoming draft, which I think they will. They're probably going to end up with a top 5 pick. And then they're ready to compete, right? They got an all-star caliber guard. They got an all-star caliber 4-man. They got a defensive player of the year in Jaren Jackson now. They got Walker Kessler. They got Ace Bailey, who's still developing and shows glimpses of being a legitimate two-way player in the NBA, a guy who might be able to average 18 to 20, in the next couple of years. Who knows? They have legitimate talent, and I think they're ready to speed up their process essentially and start to compete again. Not for nothing, the Utah Jazz find ways to stay relevant in the NBA more than a lot of other teams. And Utah, to be fair, isn't the most appealing, attracting place, but they find ways. That management does a decent job of when they do have to rebuild, it doesn't stay for long, right? But anyways, 2 things to leave off from here. 1, 3 first-round picks for Jaren Jackson means Giannis needs at least double that. I don't know what to tell you guys. He needs double that. He needs an all NBA player in return. He needs an all-star in return. He needs something. But any package that has been offered so far is not going to do it if this is the package that you get back in return for Jaren Jackson Jr. I understand it's not straight up. Still, those 3 first-round picks are in there because he's in there. So let's get real. 2, it looks like the Utah Jazz are ready to compete now, and I'm not mad at it, right? I'm not mad at it. Offensively, they are very good, right? They can compete with most teams in the NBA offensively. Defensively, you add a guy like this who is a great rim protector. He's very switchable, and who's to say next season they don't compete for a playoff spot? I think they legitimately can do that, especially if you're talking about bringing in a guy like AJ DeBonza or Cam Boozer next season too. You know what I'm saying? The sky's the limit, right? You're really starting to, you know, put some talent around that squad and see what they can do. So I'm excited to see what the Utah Jazz can do. I think they're a really well-run organization for the most part. Obviously, they're not the most appealing franchise. So typically when they hit a wall in terms of like when they hit a ceiling, right? Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert hit their ceiling. They traded him. When you go back to Darren Williams, Carlos Boozer, Mehmet Okur, right? They hit their ceiling. Andres Karolinko as well. They hit their ceiling. You trade those guys. You rebuild for a couple of years. But what I like about Utah is when they do their rebuilds are quick, right? Their rebuilds are 3-4 years. We're competitive again. It's not it's not what seems to be just a forever rebuild like a lot of these other franchises who are at the bottom of the barrel sometimes, right? It's a 2, 3, 4 years max. We're starting to compete again, right? They when they run through these cycles, which teams like Utah in these sorts of markets do, they make the most of them, right? They bring in talent, they make good decisions, and then they're right back to where they started. So you've got to give your hats off to Utah for that, because they're aggressive, they make good moves, and they compete, right? They compete. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. I think there's more trades to come. I hope Giannis gets moved before the deadline, but I'm not hopeful because I don't know if any team. I don't think there's any one team who has enough assets to warrant a Giannis trade. I think it's going to have to be 3 teams, and we'll see if a team's willing to work with Milwaukee and whoever else to get a deal done. But just my thoughts. Peace.